To everyone listening right now, thank you for being here with me. What I'm about to share isn't just another story. It's a piece of my soul. Sometimes life hands us moments so painful, so unthinkable, that we wonder if we'll ever be whole again. But those very moments can also shape us into someone stronger than we ever imagined. This is not just about betrayal, it's about what comes after, about finding light in the middle of darkness, and about how one person's kindness can become a lifeline when you feel like you're drowning. If you've ever been broken, if you've ever questioned your worth because of someone else's choices, then this story is for you. Because sometimes the ending we fear the most is only the beginning of something greater. My name is Alex, and for nearly 10 years, I thought my life was exactly what I had always dreamed of. I had a stable job, a small circle of loyal friends, and above all, a wife I loved more than anything, Sophie. Sophie wasn't just my partner, she was my best friend. We met in the most ordinary way, at a bookstore near campus. I remember she dropped a novel, and when I bent to pick it up, our hands brushed. That tiny spark led to late-night conversations, endless laughter, and eventually marriage. Our life together was simple, but full. Saturday mornings meant coffee runs to our favorite cafe. Evenings meant cooking together. She was always better at it than me, though I never admitted it out loud. We had routines, inside jokes, and the kind of comfort you only find when you're truly at home with someone. People often said we were the perfect couple. Friends would point to us as relationship goals, and I believed them. I believed that Sophie and I were unshakable, that nothing could break the bond we had built brick by brick over the years. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was, because sometimes the cracks are there all along, too small to notice until the entire foundation begins to crumble. At that time, though, I was happy, truly happy. I thought the story of my life was set, and Sophie was the co-author of every chapter to come. But life has a way of turning the page when you least expect it. And the next chapter would destroy everything I thought I knew. It all began on a night that seemed so ordinary. Sophie had left her phone on the kitchen counter, face down, buzzing with notifications. Normally, I never questioned her privacy. I trusted her completely. But that night, something about the constant vibration pulled me in, like a whisper I couldn't ignore. I told myself it was probably just a friend, maybe a group chat. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I reached over, flipped the phone, and my heart nearly stopped. The screen lit up with words I will never forget. Last night was unforgettable. Counting down until I see you again. 10 words. That's all it took to rip 10 years of love, trust, and memories into shreds. My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't even breathe. I scrolled further, hoping, praying that I had misunderstood. But each message cut deeper than the last. Plans for secret meetings. Inside jokes I had never heard. Words of passion that once belonged to me, now written for someone else. When Sophie walked into the room, I felt my entire world spinning. Phone still in my hand, I looked at her, waiting for denial, excuses, anything. But what I got instead was worse. She froze, glanced at the screen, and then sighed. No tears, no guilt, just a calmness that shattered me more than the messages themselves. "I stopped loving you years ago, Alex," she said flatly, as if she were talking about the weather. "I just didn't know how to tell you." Those words echoed in my mind, louder than any scream. Years ago. How could she have smiled at me every morning, kissed me goodnight, and planned vacations with me, all while not loving me? I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but my throat tightened. All I managed was silence. She turned away, almost bored, and whispered, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Sorry." That was it. I grabbed my keys and walked out, my legs moving faster than my thoughts. I couldn't stay in that house another second. Every wall, every piece of furniture, every photo on the shelf felt like a lie pressing in on me. I ended up at my office, cold, sterile, and lifeless. But in that moment, it was safer than home. At least the office didn't deceive me. At least the office didn't say, "I stopped loving you years ago." That night was the first of many sleepless nights spent under fluorescent lights, staring at spreadsheets I couldn't even read. And little did I know, it was also the night that would lead me to someone who would change everything. The hours after Sophie's confession blurred together like smudged ink on wet paper. I remember sitting in my car outside the office, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My chest felt hollow, my body heavy, and yet my mind wouldn't stop racing. How long had it been going on? Who was he? Was every laugh, every kiss, every "I love you" nothing more than an act? The questions circled endlessly, and no matter how many times I tried to push them away, they clawed their way back. Inside the office, I collapsed into my chair, staring blankly at the monitor. Numbers, charts, emails, they meant nothing. My mind was replaying those 10 words over and over, stabbing me deeper each time. I stopped loving you years ago. The betrayal wasn't just about Sophie being with someone else. It was about the years I had wasted loving a ghost of the woman I thought she was. The dinners I cooked when she was working late, the anniversaries I planned, the gifts I bought, the promises I kept, all of it suddenly felt worthless. The first night I stayed at the office, I told myself it was just to clear my head. But one night turned into 2, then into a week. My co-workers started noticing the bags under my eyes, the half-hearted hellos, the way I kept to myself. But I didn't care. The office, for all its lifelessness, didn't lie to me. It was predictable, quiet, safe. I avoided going home at all costs. The thought of stepping into that house, of smelling Sophie's perfume on the couch cushions or seeing her clothes in the closet, was unbearable. But no matter how hard I tried to hide from it, the pain followed me everywhere. Some nights I'd bury my face in my hands, the silence so loud it hurt. Other nights I'd find myself gripping my chest, wondering if heartbreak could literally kill you. Sleep didn't come easy. When it did, it brought nightmares. Visions of Sophie laughing with someone else, whispering the same words she once whispered to me. I'd jolt awake, drenched in sweat, gasping for air, only to realize it wasn't a dream. It was my reality. I felt like a ghost walking through my own life. Food lost its taste, music became noise, and time just dragged on, stretching the pain endlessly. I didn't recognize myself anymore. The confident man who once believed in love, loyalty, and forever was gone. In his place was someone hollow, broken, and barely holding on. And though I didn't know it then, it was in those darkest moments, when I thought I had lost everything, that an unexpected voice would remind me I hadn't lost myself completely. Her name was Clara. Clara was my boss, a woman in her mid-40s, with the kind of presence that filled a room without her even trying. She wasn't the loudest voice in meetings, but when she spoke, everyone listened. Calm, precise, yet warm in a way that made people want to do better. Not because they had to, but because she inspired them to. I'd always respected her professionalism from a distance. To me, she was just the boss, someone I answered to, someone who held authority. But I never thought she would become a lifeline. It started one late evening. The office was almost deserted. The only sounds, the hum of the air conditioner and the faint clicking of my keyboard. I thought I was alone, until Clara appeared in the doorway of my cubicle, her sharp heels clicking softly against the tile. She tilted her head, arms folded. "You've been here every night this week, Alex. Are you planning to move in?" Her tone was light, almost teasing, but her eyes carried something else. Concern. The kind of concern you can't fake. I forced a weak smile, mumbling something about catching up on work. She didn't buy it. Clara was too perceptive for that. "Don't feed me that line," she said gently. "I've been in this business long enough to recognize when someone's hiding behind spreadsheets." Her words hit harder than I expected. For the first time in days, I felt seen, not as an employee, not as a machine pushing out reports, but as a human being drowning under a weight I couldn't carry. I didn't say much that night, just nodded, shrugged, and tried to act like I was fine. Clara didn't push. Instead, she gave me a small smile and said, "All right, but don't let whatever this is consume you, Alex. Messy things. They have a way of eating you alive." Then she walked away, leaving me with more silence than before, but somehow it felt different, lighter, almost like she had left a thread dangling. waiting for me to grab onto it when I was ready. What I didn't know was that this was only the beginning. A few nights later, the office was once again empty, except for me. I was hunched over my desk, pretending to work, though the words on the screen blurred into nothing. The ache in my chest hadn't eased. It had only deepened. That's when I noticed Clara again. She didn't just pass by this time. Instead, she walked straight into my cubicle holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. Without asking, she placed one on my desk and said, "You're not fooling me, Alex. Something's going on. You can either talk or we can just sit here in silence with this coffee. Your choice." Her words were gentle, but there was no escaping them. Clara had a way of stripping away your defenses without making you feel attacked. I stared at her, at the kindness in her eyes, and for the first time since Sophie's betrayal, my walls began to crack. I don't even know where to start," I muttered, my voice breaking. "Start anywhere," she replied softly. "Sometimes the first word is the hardest. After that, the rest follows." And just like that, the truth began to spill out. Not in a rush, not in perfect order, but in fragments, shattered pieces of my story falling onto the desk between us. I told her about Sophie's phone, about the messages that burned themselves into my memory. I told her about the confrontation, about those words, "I stopped loving you years ago." The more I spoke, the heavier it felt, yet at the same time, there was a strange relief in letting it out. Clara didn't interrupt. She didn't gasp or offer empty cliches. She just listened, steady, calm, and unflinching. Her eyes never left mine, as if to say, "I see you. I hear you. You matter." When I finally fell silent, exhausted and hollow, Clara leaned back in her chair. She didn't pity me. Instead, her voice was firm, almost commanding, but with warmth woven through it. "She's the one who lost something, Alex, not you. You gave your love, your loyalty, your years. She chose to throw that away. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger than you realize." Her words cut through me, not like Sophie's had, sharp and destructive, but like light through a crack in the darkness. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel like just a discarded husband. I felt like me. Clara sipped her coffee, her expression calm but resolute. "Pain can consume you if you let it. But you can choose to use it, to grow from it, to discover who you are beyond her betrayal." I sat there stunned, not because her words magically erased the hurt, but because she believed in me at a time when I couldn't believe in myself. That night, something shifted. The grief was still there, yes, but it wasn't the only thing anymore. For the first time since Sophie's betrayal, I felt a flicker of strength, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely broken, and it was all because Clara refused to let me drown in silence. After that night, things slowly began to change. The office no longer felt like just a cold escape from home. It started to feel like a place where I could breathe again. And the reason was simple. Clara, she didn't suddenly become my savior or try to fix me. Instead, she made it her quiet mission to keep me from disappearing into my own loneliness. Some nights, she'd stop by my desk with coffee. Other times, she'd invite me into her office for a casual chat. We wouldn't always talk about Sophie or the betrayal. In fact, most of the time, we talked about everything but that, books, music, our favorite takeout spots, even silly office stories that made us laugh until our stomachs hurt. Those conversations became small lifelines, little reminders that the world hadn't ended, even if mine had felt like it did. Clara wasn't the only one, though. She introduced me to her assistant, Emma, a bright, energetic young woman whose laughter could light up even the dullest of nights. Emma had this way of making people forget their worries, at least for a while. Soon, the three of us developed an odd but comforting routine. We'd order late-night food, spread boxes of noodles or pizza across Clara's desk, and just talk. About work, about dreams, about life. There was no pressure, no judgment, no pity, just genuine human connection. At first, I felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong in their world of laughter and warmth. But week after week, something in me started to soften. I found myself laughing again, smiling without forcing it. feeling a little lighter, like the weight on my chest wasn't crushing me quite as hard. It wasn't about romance. Not yet. It wasn't about replacing Sophie or pretending I hadn't been shattered. It was about survival. About being reminded that I still had value, that I still existed beyond the role of the betrayed husband. Clara, with her calm wisdom, and Emma, with her unshakable positivity, became anchors in my storm. They didn't erase the pain, but they gave me reasons to keep moving forward through it. One night, as we sat eating takeout, Emma cracked a joke that had us all laughing so hard, tears rolled down our faces. And in that moment I realized something profound. I was still capable of joy. I was still capable of connection. Betrayal had broken me, yes, but it hadn't destroyed me completely. Healing, I realized, wasn't about pretending the past hadn't happened. It was about allowing yourself to feel the pain, but also opening the door to new moments that remind you life goes on. And slowly, piece by piece, with Clara's steady guidance and Emma's light-hearted energy, I began to stitch myself back together. It happened on a quiet evening, long after Emma had left the office. Clara and I were sitting in her office, the glow of the city lights spilling in through the windows. The room was calm, almost serene, yet I felt restless inside. I was staring at my hands, lost in thought, when Clara finally broke the silence. Her voice was steady but softer than usual. "Alex, you can't keep torturing yourself for someone else's choices." The words hit me like a stone in still water. I froze, then gave a bitter laugh. Easy for you to say. She was my world. Everything I built, every plan, every dream was with her. And now I don't even know who I am without her. Clara leaned forward, resting her elbows on the desk, her eyes fierce yet gentle. "Then it's time you find out." I looked up, startled. "Find out? How? By pretending it didn't happen? By just moving on like it was nothing?" "No," she said firmly, shaking her head. "Not by forgetting, not by pretending, but by choosing to discover who you are, beyond her betrayal. You've been defining yourself by her love, and now by her absence. Alex, you are so much more than that." Her words struck a chord so deep it rattled me. I had been clinging to Sophie's betrayal like it was the only story left of my life. I had let it define me, consume me, shrink me down into nothing but pain. "I don't even know where to start," I whispered. My throat felt tight, my eyes burning. Clara stood then, walking around her desk until she was standing right in front of me. She placed a hand gently on my shoulder, grounding me. "Start here," she said softly, but with unmistakable strength. "Start by saying no to the prison she left you in. Start by choosing yourself." I blinked at her, my chest heavy with emotion. "I don't think I can do it alone." Her expression softened into something that almost felt like a smile. "Then don't. You don't have to." And then, in a moment that would forever stay etched in my memory, she leaned closer and said the words that would change everything. "Come with me instead." It wasn't an invitation to romance. It wasn't about her at all. It was about life. About moving forward, about refusing to let betrayal be the last chapter of my story. Her voice carried a challenge, not pity, not comfort, but a call to action. For the first time, I felt a spark inside me, small, fragile, but real, and I realized Clara was right. Sophie's betrayal didn't define me. What I chose to do next, that would. That night, sitting in Clara's office under the city lights, I made a silent promise to myself. I would no longer let Sophie's words cage me. I would find out who I was without her, and for the first time since my world collapsed, I felt ready to take a step forward. The night Clara said those words, "Come with me instead," something inside me shifted. At first, I just sat there in stunned silence, staring at her. My mind scrambled to interpret what she meant. But Clara didn't rush to explain. She simply held my gaze, steady and unwavering, as if daring me to believe in the possibility of moving forward. Finally, I whispered, "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly, her voice calm but resolute. "I'm not asking you to start over with me, Alex. I'm asking you to stop letting her betrayal write the rest of your story. Don't stay trapped in that pain. Come with me into life again, into healing, into tomorrow." Her words hung in the air like a lifeline. For weeks, I'd been drowning in sorrow, convinced my life had ended the moment Sophie admitted she had stopped loving me. But here was Clara, refusing to let me fade into despair. I hesitated, fear gripping me. What if I can't? What if I don't know how? Clara's eyes softened. Then you'll learn, step by step. And you won't be alone. The weight of those words made my chest tighten. I realized I had been clinging to my pain because it was familiar. It was safer to sit in the darkness than risk walking toward light I wasn't sure I deserved. But Clara's hand, still resting lightly on my shoulder, was steady, solid, real. Slowly, I stood up. She didn't move away. Instead, she simply nodded toward the door. "Come on," she said gently, and so I followed her. We walked out of the office together, the city night greeting us with crisp air and distant car horns. For the first time in weeks, I felt the world outside again, the glow of streetlights, the sound of laughter spilling from a cafe, the rhythm of life continuing. Unbothered by my brokenness, Clara didn't try to fill the silence. We just walked side by side until my thoughts finally broke free. I started talking about the betrayal, about my anger, about the emptiness I'd been carrying. My words tumbled out messily, raw and unfiltered. She listened, never judging, never interrupting. Every now and then, she'd offer a quiet comment, gentle but strong. You deserved honesty. Her choices don't define your worth. You're allowed to grieve, but don't let grief be your permanent address. As we walked under the glowing street lamps, something strange happened. The knot in my chest began to loosen just a little. The air felt lighter, my steps steadier. For the first time since Sophie's confession, I wasn't thinking about going back. I was thinking about going forward. We ended up at a quiet park, sitting on a bench while the city moved around us. I glanced at Clara, her calm presence grounding me, and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." She looked at me, her expression fierce yet kind. "Alex, you're worth fighting for. But the real question is, are you ready to fight for yourself?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I let the silence stretch between us, a silence that no longer felt suffocating, but strangely peaceful. And deep down, I knew this was the beginning of something new, because I had finally taken Clara's hand, not literally, but in spirit, and chosen to step forward into life again. Months passed. Slowly, the rawness of the betrayal dulled. The pain never vanished completely, but it stopped controlling me. Between long talks with Clara, Emma's infectious laughter, and the quiet moments I began to reclaim for myself, I started to feel human again. I was no longer just the man Sophie had betrayed. I was Alex, someone learning to live, to laugh, and to believe again. And that's when she came back. One evening as I was leaving the office, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in months. Sophie. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, torn between answering and letting it ring. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Her voice was shaky, drenched in tears. "Alex, please. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have let you go. I still love you." The words that once would have broken me now felt strangely hollow. I stood there in silence, listening as she poured out her regrets, talking about how lonely she was, how she realized, too late, what she had thrown away. "I'll do anything to fix this," she cried. "Please, Alex, give us another chance." For a moment, the old part of me, the part that had once built his entire world around her, wanted to believe her, wanted to crumble. But Clara's words echoed in my mind. You can't keep torturing yourself for her choices. It's time to discover who you are. And I finally understood. I took a deep breath. My voice was steady, firm, unlike the broken man she had left behind. "No, Sophie, I can't. You had my love, my loyalty, my years, and you chose to throw them away. You didn't just betray me. You erased us, and now I know I deserve more." She sobbed harder, begging, pleading, but I didn't waver. "This isn't about punishing you," I continued. "It's about saving myself. You stopped loving me years ago. That's what you said. And now I'm finally ready to stop loving the ghost of who you used to be. I'm moving forward, without you." And with that, I ended the call. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It wasn't crushing. It was liberating. For the first time since the night I discovered her betrayal, I felt free. I stood there on the quiet street, the cool night air brushing against my face, and I realized I wasn't lost anymore. I wasn't defined by Sophie's betrayal. I was defined by the choice I had just made. I chose myself when I turned and saw Clara waiting for me by the office doors, her calm, steady presence grounding me as always. I felt something powerful, hope, and in that moment, I knew Sophie's betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was only the beginning. When I look back now, I realize something I couldn't see in the middle of my heartbreak. Betrayal doesn't define us. What defines us is what we choose to do afterward. Sophie's infidelity felt like the end of everything. For weeks, I thought I would never recover. I believed I was broken beyond repair. But the truth is, sometimes the ending you fear the most is only the beginning of a new chapter you never imagined. Clara didn't rescue me. Emma didn't magically erase my pain. What they did was far more powerful. They reminded me of my worth. They reminded me that even in the middle of betrayal, I still had a choice. I could let Sophie's actions cage me forever, or I could step forward and claim a life that was mine to live, and I chose me. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. It's messy, it's painful, and it takes time. But slowly, I realized that I was more than the man Sophie betrayed. I was still Alex. I was still someone who could laugh, dream, and love again, maybe even stronger than before. So if you're listening to this right now and you feel broken, if someone's betrayal has convinced you that you'll never be whole again, let me tell you something. I wish someone had told me sooner. You are not defined by the people who leave you. You are defined by the courage it takes to stand up and move forward. Don't let betrayal become your identity. Don't let someone else's choices steal your tomorrow. Yes, grieve. Yes, feel the pain. But when you're ready, when the smallest spark of strength appears, choose yourself. Because you are worth that choice. And if this story has touched you, if it's reminded you that you're not alone in your struggle, I want you to do one thing. Share it. Someone out there right now needs this message just as badly as you did. And before you go, tell me in the comments. What's the biggest lesson life has taught you about love, loss, or healing? Your words might be the lifeline someone else is waiting for. Remember this, betrayal may be the beginning of your story, but it never has to be the ending. The ending is yours to write, so write it boldly. Write it with courage. Write it with love for yourself, because you deserve nothing less.